As the prophet of esports, I rely on trustworthy and meaningful data every day. Data from our research partner, YouGov, offers the most complete view of esports fans and gamers in the world, providing context to who they are, what they think, the brands they buy, and things they do. YouGov's connected insights and research services inform strategy at every level. If you're a team, a brand, agency, or rights holder, you should be talking with YouGov. Their partners measure and maximize ROI and are telling compelling stories with data. Visit yougov.com/gaming-esports to learn more.
And this article, I think, may surprise people. The headline here, Xbox Game Pass subscriptions miss Microsoft's target. What they're saying is Game Pass subscriber growth was up 37%, but the company had set a 48% growth goal. That's over the last 12 months. And in the company's prior fiscal year, from mid-19 to mid-20, Game Pass subs were up 86%, exceeding a target of 71. So the most recent figure we have is they have 18 million subscribers at $10 or $15 a month. But clearly growth is slowing, right? So they grew at a 38% rate versus the 48% goal. Any thoughts on why Game Pass subscriptions may not be hitting Microsoft's own internal targets? Has it been overhyped? I'm curious what you guys make of this. Should we all be writing off Xbox Game Pass now?
No, I wonder if it's a function of the supply shortages with the Series X too. People just not being in tune with what Xbox is doing because they're still waiting for a console. That's a really minor thing, but I have a feeling that that's contributing at least.
I see some agreement with you in
well,
the
no,
chat.
I think that point makes a lot of sense, but I wonder, does it say in the article how their hardware sales did? Because if their hardware was below their expectations, then it makes perfect sense that, so the way you would model it, right? They probably have a hardware forecast and then some sort of, attach rate to that of subscriptions. But I thought I saw somewhere that hardware was kind of better than they expected. So I'm not sure if that explanation
there's nothing in this article on hardware, but I'm sure we could find data on did they meet their internal hardware goals.
So
I wonder, you go first.
I could be way off here, but I kind of just feel like their target was awesome. Like what they hit was great. Maybe what is this? They fell short of, what was it, 47%? I want to know what decision making went into that initial target, because maybe it's a product of COVID-like expectations against real world kind of resuming. And I just by that I mean when everything shut down, gaming obviously took off, and perhaps this is some type of target that was set under those assumptions, and the real world and the way things started to play out this year with everything opening back up, changed things. So I just think that what they did manage to achieve was great, and I question the target itself, not that it's an indication of things slowing down, but rather it's like a more realistic baseline, if that makes sense.
Keep in mind, this was an internally set target.
I
right?
understand.
So
yeah.
I'm surprised we even know about it. It's you don't usually hear
because the number's still great. Because the number's still great.
Right.
Right?
They're like, oh, look at that. Oh, we missed our. Oh, it's so tough.
Yeah.
I also think if they're probably measuring the Game Pass subscriptions for PC and the consoles separately, right? And so you're probably seeing, whatever variance that you see in the console supply and demand doesn't probably line up with the PC part of it. And so I wonder if a lot of the people that were going to get Game Pass on PC already have Game Pass. And so how many more, how can you reach more people at this point is what I'm imagining what their next obstacle is, because everyone I know that knows about Game Pass has Game Pass, and everyone that doesn't know about it doesn't have it. So I just wonder if they're just missing reaching that other bit of people. But
let me give you one more piece of information here, which may answer that question. And I think this is most telling, because you guys mentioned, how do we even know this? I'll tell you how we even know this. It showed up in a filing, right? Obviously Microsoft, a public company, has to make filings. And this filing was related to the CEO, Satya Nadella's compensation. And Game Pass subscriber growth is one of the metrics. It's the short list of performance goals for Satya directly. So he has to hit certain growth goals for Xbox Game Pass, and that obviously has a direct impact on his compensation. It's the only, let me just say this, I'll read this directly. It's the only pure gaming metric listed in his payment plan and sits alongside other priority targets, including number of LinkedIn sessions and the usage of Microsoft Teams. So when you talk about like strategic priorities, Game Pass is literally up there, like not even right up. It's up there at the very top.
Honestly, Paul, that's a great point. I think that if we're taking this story entirely, that point you just made matters so much more, so much more interesting than the number versus what the internal target is. Particularly now that I know that it came from something like a proxy like that, where a lot of times that internal goal, like to hit certain payment metrics, is not what the forecast is, or not what, it's like, this would be a stretch target, and if we hit 50% of it, you get 50% of the pay. If you hit 100% of it, you get X. So like, it's not like this was what they expected and then they did way worse. But I think it's really interesting, one, that it's even in there at all. So it shows there is obviously a real buy-in from the board level of Microsoft to do gaming, which maybe shouldn't be shocking, but that's still, I think, important for a company the size and scale of Microsoft. And then the point you made about it being the only gaming related metric, like how wild is that? You would think that number of Xboxes sold or total revenue of the Xbox
they don't care.
Gaming division doesn't matter. They just care about they care about subscriptions and Game Pass. So that is really a very interesting fact there.
I agree. I think that's maybe the most interesting. And I tried to mislead you guys, and I asked at the beginning, is Game Pass like dead, right? Can we, oh my God, the growth is slowing. But I would not be surprised. No, but now it all sort of makes sense in the context of spending, $8 billion on Bethesda, where if Game Pass really is the strategic sort of priority, the more exclusives they have, the more studios they own, the beefier that product becomes, the more compelling the value proposition becomes. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if, and they already offer this, right? You can buy an Xbox today with an all-in price that includes Game Pass. I wouldn't be surprised if that becomes the only way to buy Xbox, period. Like, the product just becomes essentially a subscription service where they send you the hardware, no different than Verizon sending you a modem. I don't know. Let me just read something. Let me get caught up here. One, he says, I'm Korean, so automatically I'm master of StarCraft and other RTS. Yes, one, if you're not, I believe they disown you or they deport you or something. Stuart says, not so sure about the logo, though. Well, the RTS logo, it was okay. There's nothing special about it. Nothing. Alex says, of course it's slowing. We can't get our hands on next gen, which was Lindsay's comment. And Bruno says, can't grow more because people can't find consoles to buy. Yeah, there's definitely supply chain problems. Stuart says, surely it's because of Nintendo entering the space. Yeah, somehow I don't think that's the case. Bruno says, Game Pass should be a good driver of Xbox sales akin to exclusives for PlayStation. There's a lot of good games coming out and lined up to come out on Game Pass. Agreed, 100%. And I also find, like, for me at least, I'll try a game on Game Pass and realize, like, I'm so glad I got it through Game Pass, because now I probably never would have bought it, right? I'm so glad I didn't spend $60 on that. Bruno says, but even PC, it's been hard to get parts. True, which also would affect Game Pass subscriptions. So Adam says, Xbox All Access requires a credit check, so I doubt it'll be the only way to buy. I mean, Adam, there's just so many ways around this. Like, there's a lot of fintech companies, and there's no reason Microsoft can't do this, like Affirm and things like that, that bypass the whole sort of credit check and still have monthly. Essentially, they're lending you like it's consumer credit, but they do it without the credit check. I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft figures that out also. Like, you can buy a Peloton and not need a credit check on a monthly payment.